Are men better than women, or women are better than men? A question that becomes a hot debate in the 21st century. Man versus women, a statement that can cause World War III. Through this documentary, let's find out more about the real reason behind the unsettled conflict between genders. We will flesh out the history of women's fight for equality to the Islamic perspective, as Islam had discussed it very thoroughly either in Quran or Hadith. It's quite unfair to say that men got the best life in the ancient history, but they definitely got it better than women. According to BIK41803 website, women, especially women in Athenian society, were tamed or subdued by the man population. Even the word wife in Athenian society, which they call it as damar, derived from the root meaning to subdue or to tame. In another word, women are men's property. However, the evidence suggested that this occurrence only cropped out in the Athenian city-state. Spartan, another Greek city-state, did not treat their women lesser than slaves. Knowing that the women were a great asset in producing Greek soldiers for the Sparta's army, Sparta actually acknowledged their contributions and gave them a few rights like holding property and giving autonomy on what the women like to wear. Critically, if we think it deeply, it's unsettling how women were treated in the past. Spartan may have given a few recognitions to the women, but only because they were in need of soldiers. Men also went through dire process of living in a society that forced them to be the protector and the providers. And not to mention, they were definitely going to be killed first during the war or during the raid. So, take it deeply. Both genders actually got it bad. In these past centuries, we see the rise of feminism and the fight for equality for women. The fight that may turn violent, but it started with good intentions.
This is what feminism looks like!
If you look up the word feminism on the internet, several definitions will definitely pop up. However, there are of similar idea of advocating for women's rights based on gender equality. However, nowadays, the word is tainted with so much negativity and has become too synonymous with man-hating. If there is one thing that I'm certain of, is that this has to stop. Because for the record, feminism itself, by definition, is the belief that men and women should be treated equally. It is a theory of political, economic, and social equality for both sexes. Back in the day, the gender inequality were much more prominent than it is today. Our ancestors had to fight for women's basic rights, such as the right for education, the right to vote, and also the right to their own body. Those are the rights that I consider to be basic human rights, but they have to be fought for decades before it became tangible. It also took decades before the Equal Act Pay was signed by John F. Kennedy. The Act prohibits sex-based wage discrimination between men and women who perform jobs that require substantially equal amount of effort, skill, and responsibility under similar working conditions. Sounds pretty promising for women, isn't it? At this rate, you might be releasing a sigh of relief thinking, finally women would be paid equally for their labors. Well, I'm sorry to pop your bubbles, but no, discrimination of wage based on gender is still happening. In 2019, Abdullah, one of the screenwriters for Crazy Rich Asians, a worldwide box office film by the Warner Bros., has walked away from the sequel of the Crazy Rich Asians after learning that her male co-screenwriter, Lee, was initially offered a $800,000 to $1 million range of salary, while Lim was offered only a fraction of it, which is $100,000. Gender wage gap is also happening here in Malaysia. The average Malaysian male employee had a median salary of 2,342 ringgit a month, while female employees had median salary of 2,227 ringgit a month, according to the Statistic Department's of Wages and Salaries Survey Report 2018. This is a mindset that needs to be reversed. The stereotype surrounding men that they have to always be tough, be in control, and stay strong no matter what also contributes to this matter. Boys are always taught to suppress their emotions, that they grew up thinking that expressing true feelings would make them seem weaker. Thus, most men are afraid to dive into these caring professions as it would make them seem less of a man. To address occupational segregation, we must challenge gender stereotypes and expand the range of careers available to both men and women. We must also remove barriers that hinders our girls and women from pursuing careers in traditionally male-dominated fields and vice versa.
Nowadays, life has become the survival of the fittest, regardless of their gender. The female gender is competing with their male counterparts under the word feminism and gender equality. Each and every woman out there is striving for gender equality in human development. The holiest book in Islam, the Holy Quran, indicates that both men and women have the same spiritual human nature. So why does discrimination still happen? This notion of gender equality has not been reflected in the countries that practices Islamic laws. Contrary to that, the discrimination against women is more pronounced in countries where Islam is their main religion. Take a look on what happened in Malaysia at the moment. A survey conducted by Women's Aid Organization showed that 56% of women suffered discrimination at their workplace. This includes receiving comments about their marital status or plans of starting a family, being passed over for promotion, and having to do miscellaneous tasks that are not parts of their job descriptions, such as preparing refreshments. The ongoing effort of establishing gender equality will never end unless each and every one of us go back to Holy Quran and re-understand the roles of gender in Islam. First of all, in the perspective of Islam, women and men both are equal as the servant of Allah. Humans have two main roles, namely as the servant and as the representative of Allah, without differentiating the sex, ethnic or race, and skin color as mentioned in Surah Al-Hujarat verse 13. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other. Verily the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. According to this verse, there is no disparity between men and women in their capacity as the servant. Both genders have equal potentials and opportunities to become the ideal servant of Allah in Islam. Second, women and men are the caliphate or the messenger of Allah. God created human and fashioned them perfectly to the right proportion so that they could fulfill their role as the caliphate of Allah. In the Quran, Surah Al-An'am, verse 165, and it is He who has made you successors on earth and has raised some of you above others in degrees of rank, and that He may try you through what He has given you. Indeed, your Lord is swift in penalty, but indeed He is forgiving and merciful. The word Khalifah in the verse does not refer to any specific gender, which indicates that each and every human has been brought on earth to fulfill their role as the trustees of Allah. Third, both men and women in Islam are assigned to be complementary rather than competitive. In Surah Al-Arum, it is mentioned that, and of His signs is that He created for you from yourselves mate that you may find tranquility in them. And He placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought. This verse indicates that instead of seeing the differences between men and women as a hindrance, the specific roles given and the biological differences between male and female could complement the strengths and weaknesses of each gender. These gender differences, if being utilized optimally, may benefit the society as a whole. In conclusion, men and women in Islam are equal in front of Allah in terms of their general responsibilities, creation, and fundamental rights. The biological and characteristic differences between men and women should not be taken as a basis of arguments for gender injustice. Instead, take those differences as a strategy to work together as co-vicegerent on earth to ensure justice and peace, because in the end, the best humans in the sight of Allah are those who best devote, either men or women.
As far as we have concerned, this battle of sexes has occurred way back in ancient history. In ancient Greece, women were considered as men's property due to being subdued or tamed by the man population. While in Spartan history, a woman was only given recognition and few rights just because they are a great asset in producing Spartan future soldiers. The battle for gender equality should not have happened. It should never have happened in human history. There is no reason to undermine one gender that has different capabilities to uphold others. When the feminist movement happened in the 1960s, back in the States, things have gone south-hill. And it is a matter of humanity's crumbling. The female population has suffered from discrimination at work with its unfair wage and even got penalized. Then we have the Equal Act Pay, which took decades to be signed only to end the sex-based wage discrimination between men and women. Yet, the discrimination is still happening and the gap only continues to widen with occupational segregation. Isn't it weird? The same institution wage was given according to substantially equal skill, effort, and responsibility under similar working conditions for both genders. So, if female, the apparent gender in the world, could have the ability to fulfill those requirements and could perform the job under the stated working condition, then by right, women should have the same wage as men. Isn't it? Not to mention, it even happens in Malaysia. As a majority Muslim country, especially in the countries that follow Islamic laws, this notion of equality was not expressed. The inequalities in the Muslim community can be avoided if every one of us returns to the Holy Quran and re-understand the role of gender in Islam. Men and women are spiritual partners in Islam and are required to meet the same obligation. Both genders are equal as a servant of God, have equal capacity and resources to become the perfect servant, and are the caliphates on earth. So, instead of saying the distinction between men and women as a hindrance, we could always showcase that the particular roles given and the biological differences between men and women could complement the strength and limitation of each sex. Gender equality is a fundamental human right regardless of where you live. From reducing poverty to supporting the health, education, safety, and well-being of girls and boys, advancing gender equality is crucial in all aspects of stable society. So, what can we do to solve this? Actually, every gender plays a crucial role in the gender equality establishment. If you are a girl, help encourage your female classmates at school to do the same and advocate for your right to access care for sexual and reproductive health. If you are a woman, you can address the unconscious prejudices and association that form an unintentional and sometimes unnoticed obstacle to equal opportunity. And if you are a man or a boy, you can always work alongside girls and women to promote gender equality and embrace healthy and respectful relationships. We can also finance education campaigns and amend harmful laws that restrict women's and girls' rights, which discourage them from reaching their full potential. With that, thank you.